So we're given this equation of a circle, and we are looking for the radius of the circle. So we've seen this type of problem before, but let's remind ourselves what the sort of parent function form, what the parent form, standard form of the equation of a circle is. It's x minus, I think it's h squared, doesn't matter, x minus some letter squared, plus y minus some other letter squared is equal to r squared, where your h is your x value of the center of the circle, k is the y value of the center of the circle, and r squared is, of course, just the radius squared. So the issue here is that as it is right now, we actually can't get this thing into this form, right? Because we can't factor these values as they are. But we remember we have a nifty trick for this, and it's called completing the square, right? Completing the square will allow us to basically, when you complete the square, it allows you to factor something as a sort of something squared value. But before we do that, I see that all these x's and y's and stuff have coefficients, and I personally don't like trying to factor that sort of thing, so I'm going to divide everything here by 2. And yes, that'll give me 45 over 2 on the right, but I don't really care about that right now. So I'm going to divide both sides, everything, by 2. So that'll give me x squared minus 3x plus y squared plus y is equal to 45 over 2. So this is a little bit easier to deal with. Now let's go ahead and complete the square. So when you complete the square, you take your b term, put it over 2, and square it. So here it would be 3 over 2 squared. So and then remember, whatever you get when you complete the square, whatever you get by doing b over 2 squared, you add that number to both sides. So here we'd have, x squared minus 3x, and then 3 over 2, or I'm sorry, negative 3 over 2, and then squared. So negative 3 over 2 squared. So when you square that, you're just doing negative 3 over 2 times negative 3 over 2, yeah. So then you just multiply the top and multiply the bottom. So negative 3 times negative 3 is 9, and then 2 times 2 is 4. So here we'd have plus 9 over 4 plus y squared, plus y, same stuff. And then don't forget to do that on the other side, so to add it to the other side. So here we have 45 over 2. We now need to add to it 9 over 4, so that the equation is still equal. You need to add it to both sides. Now let's do the same thing with the y's. So your b value here is just positive 1, so it'd be 1 over 2 squared, so 1 half squared. That's 1 over 2 times 1 over 2, so that's equal to 1 over 4. So that'll be x squared minus 3x plus 9 over 4 plus y squared plus y plus 1 over 4 equals, don't forget to add it to the other side as well, so 45 over 2 plus 9 over 4 plus, again, 1, not again, but 1 over 4 to keep the equation equal. Now, resist the temptation to combine these like terms. That won't get you anywhere good. The whole point of doing this was so that you can now factor this part and this part into this form. So it should factor into some squared value. So we got to think what two numbers add to get negative 3 and multiply to get positive 9 over 4. And well, actually not what two numbers. Again, when you're completing the square, the whole point is that it'll be a squared value. So there won't be two different numbers. It's one number. So it's like what one number plus itself is negative 3, and what one number times itself is 9 over 4. In fact, let me even make it, I think it's even more simple to think about it just as, what number times 2 is this? Well, it's this over 2, right? Because again, by the way completing the square works, if you just divide this thing by 2, it'll always just give you the value that will squared give you this. So in this case, negative 3 over 2, right? So this converts to x minus 3 over 2 squared. Again, if you multiply it out, this will 2 times this is just equal to negative 3, and this thing times itself is equal to positive 9 over 4. Let's do the same thing over here. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and just take this value and divide it by 2, so I know already that it'll be y plus 1/2 squared. is equal to, let's combine a little bit over here. So this is 45 over 2 plus 10 over 4 plus 10 over 4. And again, let me just quickly explain how I got from here to here. I am technically just factoring this, right? But when you complete the square, your factors will always be like a squared, right? It'll always be two factors that are the same number. So you just multiply them together, so that's, you just square something. Just know that because you're going from here to here, again, don't worry about trying to do your sort of normal, what two numbers, add to this and multiply to that, and then you'll sit there and, think about that, and you might not come to it very quickly. Just take your b value and divide it by 2. Because if you divide it by 2, then 2 times that thing will always give you your b value, and it times itself will always give you this. Just like here, 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1, 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. So that'll work every time. So once we're here, let's combine this even more. So plus y plus 1/2 squared is equal to 45 over 2. So let's convert this to b over 2 so we can actually divide by the top and bottom by 2. So this is actually equal to 45 over 2 plus 5 over 2. Just divide the top and bottom by 2. And so then that's 50 over 2. Okay, so now that we've found the equation for, or another equation, I guess, for this circle, again, remember from this form that 3 over 2 is the x value of the center. Negative 1/2 is the y value of the center. Why negative 1/2? Well, because if our formula says it's y minus something, so if this turned out to be plus, that means we must have done y minus a negative, right? So this must have been negative 1/2. So the center of the circle is at 3/2, comma, negative 1/2, equal to 50 over 2. We know that 50 over 2 from our formula is equal to r squared, right? So then take the square root of both sides. Your r is equal to, when you take the square root, you need to do a plus or minus, right? Technically, but we can't have a negative radius, so we don't even need to worry about the negative value. So r is just equal to the square root of 50 over 2. So what will that be? Let's see. Square root of 50 over 2. That comes out to 5. Oh yeah. Oops. Okay. I forgot that you could actually divide 50 by 2. Sorry. So that's the square root of 50 over 2. So that's, the equal to the square root of 25. So r is equal to 5. So that's A.